more people come. And the iOS development workshop. And this workshop is hosted by Women in Computing. My name is Judy, and I'll be the one hosting the workshop. So for iOS development, today's workshop is going to focus mainly on using a Mac. And because the Mac system has a software called Xcode, and Xcode is usually for iOS development, and that will help you to get started on using Xcode and perhaps getting into iOS development. There are resources online. It is still possible to develop an iOS app using without a Mac, but it wouldn't be very helpful for today's workshop. You can search up online resources of using React Native, and that allows you to build an app simultaneously for both Android and iOS. And today is using Swift or Objective-C, which is two programming languages for iOS development, and I hope it will be helpful. Okay, so to get started, you want to download Xcode, and this file is quite large, so it takes a while to download. So if you have Xcode downloaded, it'll show you this page, which is Get Started, Welcome to Xcode. So you click on Get Started with Create a new Xcode project. So on the subtitle here, you can see create an app for iPhone, iPad, Mac, Apple Watch, or Apple TV. And usually after you click on that, you select the iOS tab and single view application, and it will always be a single view application if you're developing an iOS app. So you enter your product name, your organization name, the language that you want to use. It allows you to do Swift or Objective-C. And in this case, we're using Swift. So Swift, in comparison with Objective-C, Swift is relatively newer. It is more user-friendly. It deals with some of the issues that Objective-C it's harder to implement. So Objective-C is still very useful, especially in industry, because still a lot of companies, they use Objective-C, and they have not switched to Swift yet because their entire code base is in Objective-C. So usually, right now, currently, the companies are trying to shift their language from Objective-C to Swift, but it's still an ongoing process. So it is helpful to know both Swift and Objective-C. Okay, so after you create a project, you enter your product names, your organization names. It'll lead you to this landing page. And this landing page, it seems like there's a lot of stuff with the left, right, top, bottom. So let's examine this page more carefully. So first, we can see there are different areas. On the top, we have the toolbar, and on the bottom, we have 3 sections. On the left, there's the navigator area, the middle is the editor area, and the right is the utility area. So for the navigator area, you can see that there is the file thing, this thing, search bar, this exclamation mark, and a bunch of different stuff. So this allows you to navigate through, for example, this is your files for your app. So navigate through your files within the app. And then if you click the search bar, if you want to have a keyword you search for, it'll allow you to search through the entire workspace where the actual word appears. The exclamation mark, usually when you run the program, there are some errors, and it shows you like all the queues of errors that you get. So this helps you to look at your entire workspace from a large high-angle view and just navigate through it. So in the middle, we have the editor area. So the editor area, currently we have the workspace. And workspace, there are some settings inbuilt that you don't have to worry about right now if you're just getting started. So usually you're just not changing anything about this, just leave it as it is as the default. And you can change it as you're building the app if you need some special functions like notification and stuff. Okay, and now last on the right, we have the utility area. So sometimes if you have like an element that you want to edit, this is like an editor area. It's like a setting some property for a particular element area. And on the top here, toolbar, you can see there are different elements as well. So first, you want to see what is your simulator. So here, this is this thing over here, and it is set to iPhone 7 Plus here. So you also have to be able to run, like, in order to test your app, when you're first getting started, you have to know how to actually implement how your app just runs, right? So you can try it on different iPhone styles. You can try it on iPhone 10, iPhone 8, iPhone 7. This one particularly is set to iPhone 7. To try out, you can also try on an iPad, so to see if your app works at different situations. Okay, so now we have get started. Let's build the app before we write any code. So before we write any code, we can build the app. We click the run button, and then it'll show you, okay, it's succeeded, and then it'll show you this blank screen. So this blank screen just means, hey, okay, hey, you have successfully run your app, and because you haven't implemented anything, it's blank. Okay, so now let's actually get started on looking at the files when you just created this file. So first you have your project navigator, which is on the left of your screen. You click on this file button, and then it shows you a bunch of files, okay? And then you can see there are, when you create a Swift file, there's always these things when you just get started. So you have an app delegate.swift. I'll talk about that later. A view controller.swift, a main storyboard, and launch storyboard, and different assets. So let's first look at the app delegate and see what it is. So when you click on the app delegate, you will see a bunch of code. Okay, so in the middle, you can see that this is the app delegate.swift. So let's take a closer look at this file right here. Initially, we have a class. So you can see import UI kit, which is just importing some kit within the Apple developing thing that is set up for you. So we have the class of app delegate, and there is a UI responder and UI application delegate. You don't have to know what it means right now. Just look to like a general view of the app of the methods. So we have a func application did finish launching with options, launch options, application will resign active, application did enter background, application will enter foreground. So you can see that this is rather about the application, about the big, like the big actions within an application. So if, for example, you're launching the application, okay, you're closing the application, you're making the application enter into background, you're making the application enter into foreground. So this is this thing will affect your iOS app through a very large like impact. So for app delegate, you should use this class provided by Xcode to initialize your app and respond to app level events. So if you have an app level event, you want to use this class. And the app delegate class adopts the UI application delegate protocol, which defines a number of methods you use to set up your app to respond to app state changes and to handle app level events. So if you have like app level events, you can use this class. So this is just an introduction to this file specifically. The one that you're going to work the most with is the viewController.swift class. So the viewController.swift class, when you open it, you can see a class view controller, and it is inheriting, it is overriding the UI view controller. So this is we're creating a custom subclass called view controller in the view controller.swift, and it is under the class of UI view controller. So UI view controller is this class defined by Apple, and it has a bunch of functions. And when we implement our own app, we want to make our app special. So we don't want to have our app just the same as everyone else, right? So we create our own view controller class, which we will write in the future, write some methods in it, and then to make it different. So you can see initially, this is the default code provided to you. So we have override func view did load, and so we have, so basically this is an overriding function to the view did load class of the UI view controller UI view controller superclass. So we called the super.view did load right now. So initially we always have to call this. So super.view did load, just to make sure, okay, your app, your view controller is loaded, and then you do other things. So do any additional setup after loading the view, especially from a nib. Don't worry about what a nib is. So override func did receive a memory warning. So this is also trying to override the did receive memory warning, dispose of any resources that can be recreated. So this is another trying to override. You can override more in the future. Okay, now let's go to the storyboard. So the storyboard is something quite special in iOS development. I think it's in Android too, but I'm not too sure. So for main storyboard, the Xcode opens the storyboard in interface builder. So you can see this blank screen over here. And this blank screen is what you can use to design your app. And so basically it is a visual interface editor. And in the editor area, the background of the storyboard is the canvas. You can use the canvas to add and arrange user interface elements. So over here on the right bottom corner, we have, you can see there is like this thing over here that you can scroll. And after scrolling, you can get whatever element that you want to add it to your storyboard. So here is the object library and a library selector bar and the filter field. So for example, if you want a text, if you want to enter like a text, so if you want a text field on your storyboard where the user can enter their things, you drag something called the text field onto a view controller on the storyboard, and you drag it. After you drag it, you can resize it to whatever size you want. And then on the right, this will appear. So what is this? This is just basically changing the kind of style you want for your text field to be. On the top, you can see this bar here, and this bar, we usually click on this thing, and it is the attributes inspector. And here is a bunch of things that you can change. Okay, let's take a closer look at this. We have the text field, which is the plain text right now. Can change the color. There is a placeholder text. So if the user haven't typed anything, it's like, okay, enter whatever you want. And then the background, the border style, the capitalization. So there's a lot of things that you can customize here. And then after you are pretty much set with your appearance, there are multiple things on your canvas. So for example, you have a label, you have a button, you have a text field, which maybe your app wants. You have a view controller scene. So view controller is one view controller is one page in your app. So usually an app has multiple view controllers. You click on this page and then it'll go to the next page. But right now we're looking at one view controller. So one view controller, it contains all the elements that you move onto the page. So initially it is your view controller, your top layout, bottom layout view. This is an example of perhaps the layout would look like. Okay, so now you have added your elements. How do you have to make sure that the app does what you want to do. So for example, if you're using like a meal, if you're building like a meal app, you want to customize, you want to connect your storyboard to your code. So how do you connect your storyboard to your code? You you um you do so you open these two tabs simultaneously, side by side beside each other in Xcode, and you click control and then click and then you drag. So you drag to your file. So after you drag to your file, this will appear, and this is a connection. And this connection is called an outlet, where you can have a name label, and then after you can name it however you want. That will be the variable name. And then you select the type. Okay, it's a UI label, and then you connect. So you click connect. This IB outlet week variable meal name UI label is created. So now you have the autonomy to actually modify this meal name label. For example, if a user clicks a button, you may want the meal name label to change into red or something. So you can do that by having a variable in your code. Okay, next. So this is when you have a variable. So what if you want to have an action? So an action would be having a button. So if you have a button, when the user taps on an app, on top of a button, what does the computer do? I mean, what does the phone does? Maybe the keyboard pops up. Maybe maybe like you send a signal to the back end. So there are multiple options that you can do. So same thing, you click on the button, you control drag to your code, and then instead of creating a variable this time, when you click connect, okay, so here you can see there is also a selection of event. And event, this is very magical that Apple does. You can select which type of event it is. So for example, if you have a button, it can be touch up inside, it can be double click, it can be swipe, it can be hold. So you can choose the type of event you want and then connect that. So once it is connected, it'll create like a method for you, which on tap. So in this case, touch up inside, write some code inside that function, and then it'll give you your actions. So for example, if you tap on that, the simplest way is to print something so that you know, okay, this is working before you actually implement the code. So I just prepared this for you to get started on iOS development. Of course, there are a lot of things that you should be involved in this, but I feel like this is a good setup for you to get started. And I have a tips calculator tutorial for you. And in this case, you will, if you want to follow the tutorial online, which is very helpful, you can like implement this tips calculator to get you started on developing your first iOS app. So this is a simpler version. This is with the all fancy UIs and stuff. And then this is just having your tips calculator. And here's the link for you to build a simple calculator app. And then here is some designs for app ideas. And this is just a PS. So if you do not have a Mac, you can still use React Native to build an iOS app. However, this workshop is geared towards developing an iOS app using Xcode. Okay. Is there any questions? I still have some things to cover, which is very core in iOS development. But this is a checkpoint. Is there any questions?
Yeah, can you send the link to the PowerPoint that you have?
Oh yeah, definitely. Let's do that right now. I think I'll send it to the Zoom chat right now so that you can get access to it. But then if you want to refer to it in the future, you can look at Discord where I will share the link again. Okay, let me know if that works.
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Cool. Okay, let's continue. Oh yeah, so I have mentioned the difference between Swift and Objective-C. The one that I have shown you was Swift, and in the future examples, I'll show you some Objective-C code just to show you what it looks like. Okay, so here are some basic iOS concepts that I think might be helpful. So first, you can set up your view controller as we have seen before. There is a view controller.swift that was developed for you before. And in this case, there is one IB outlet that it is connected to, and it is something called the UI table view. So what is a UI table view? And a table view is something over here. There are two types of UI table views. It is the plain one, which you just have the columns, and then there's a group one where you have different section of columns. So usually an app has a table view. If you scroll through Instagram, that is a table view with every cell having a picture, a caption, and comments. So almost every app that we're using have some sort of table view to group elements together. And I think it'll be helpful to know how to implement a table view. And a table view have to have a delegate and a data source. So let's talk about what each of these means and why we should need that. So when we implement table view, this is the view controller. We have to inherit two classes. One is the table view data source. The UI, it's called the UI table view data source, and the other one is called the UI table view delegate. So data source describes where the data is coming from. So you want your table view, right? But what is in your table view? You have to know, okay, so I want my table view to have some pictures, and you have to give the information to your table view saying, okay, so here are the pictures that I want to put in my table. So this is for data source. It is what kind of data you want in your table. For delegate, it is what kind of actions do you want in your table. So what happens if a user taps on one of the columns, one of the cells of your table view? Will anything happen? Or so this is delegate is describing the actions, and data source is describing where the data is coming from. So when you implement your own table view, there are some required ones that you have to implement before doing anything. And the first one is the did select row at index path. So this is one required delegate method, and it is the only required delegate method. By the way, this code is in Objective-C, and Objective-C, it follows this weird method thing. So you can see there's like angular brackets, and there's like this dash here. So this thing is a method, and this method, there is a dash in the beginning. This is the return type. This in this case is returning void. This is table view. This is the name of the class. So the name of the class is table view, column, the parameter name, parameter type, and this is another part of the view name. This is a name, parameter name, method name, did select row at index path. This is the parameter name, and then this is the parameter type. So this is the method header, and then angular brackets is usually replaced. So in Java or C, usually we do like dot to invoke functions within the class. But for Objective-C, you can also use angular brackets to invoke functions in a class. So you have table view did select row at index path. Yes. So whenever you touch a row at your index path, in this case, it will log you touch row on whichever row that you selected. So this is a required method. And a required method for data source would be number of sections in table view, return the number of sections in table view, or number of rows in section. So how many rows are there in your sections? This is how your table view will look like. So this one is also a required data source method, and it is quite important. And this is for what kind of cell do you want for your table view, as I described earlier. So you have your you can either have like picture or just plain text. And here is the table view cell for row at index path, static and a string cell identifier. It is quite a bit to go over in one sitting, but just a brief overview. You can see that there is a cell in there, and then you can set up your cell. So you can set up the text of your cell, the detailed label, maybe the image view of the cell, and then in the end, you will return the cell to see, okay, this is the kind of cell that I want. So for UI table view cell, this is the default things that you can set. You can set the text label, the detailed text label, the content view, accessory view, and then when you open the editing mode, you can change editing control, the content view, and the rendering control. So those are the default ones. You can also create your custom cells, which is something that you might want. Here is an example of UI table view in Swift, and then it kind of describes the table view in detail, and I think it's a good one. And here is UI image. So usually you want to have some image. The simplest way to load an image is just by using this line over here, which is UI image, BG image, UI image, image named, using the image laden class. But it loads the data into memory and generally doesn't release it. So if you have like a very small amount of images, you can use the image named class. But you can just use this one to actually navigate through your manage your memory properly. Okay, the last one I will kind of briefly go over is the view controllers. So when you're building your app, you are having a bunch of view controllers, and within a single view controller, Apple kind of already set the order in which everything appears, and you can manage that by you can utilize that by using their methods of of having like the order in which they appear. So when like a specific page is appearing, you can use appearing. If it's changing from appearing to appeared, use the view did appear. If you want some action from appeared to disappearing, use the view will disappear. And if you are doing from disappearing to already disappeared, you do view did disappear. And then if you are trying to go from disappeared to appearing again, you will do view will appear. So you will usually face some transitions between view controllers, and then that is when you want to use these methods to to do some things. And then I think when you try the tip calculator example or some like similar examples, you will see how to use these methods. But this kind of gives you an idea that these things exist. Yeah. So that's it for today's workshop kind of presentation introducing you to iOS development. Is there any questions? Okay. Elliot said
Hi,
he had.
yeah. I had a question about like Swift and Objective-C. Are you able to use like both languages within like the same project?
No, you can only use one.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. So
Thank
you
you.
can either use Swift or Objective-C, and it gives you like this choice when you like first started creating the app,
Huh.
and then which is here.
Uh-huh.
You can see that there is a language, and in this case I chose Swift,
Right.
and you can choose Objective-C, which is the other choice.
Okay. And you said like most people in industry are like trying to shift out of using Objective-C.
Mm-hmm.
So like I guess in your opinion, would you recommend trying to use Swift or trying to use Objective-C?
I would recommend using Swift. I feel like it's better for you to get started because the code, it just looks nicer.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, okay, I see. For Etienne, it's fine because we do have recording for the workshop. So if you want to watch the recording, you can also do that. Oh, Tim said that, um, oh, so Tim said that you could use both, but it is not worthwhile because you need bridging headers. Oh, okay. Mm, I think that may be possible where you can use both Objective-C and Swift. Yeah, that need for watching the recordings, I have to ask whoever is recording to um to see the recordings, but I think you should be able to find it somewhere. Okay, I'll post this. Okay, for the people who just joined, I'll post the slides again onto the chat, and then if you want to like look over the slides, there are. I think this slide is particularly helpful with the link to a tutorial for building your first iOS app. You can watch this video, and this is like just going over the starting your first iOS app step by step. And then here is a tutorial like to build a tips calculator. This is the thing that you're going to build, and setting up the UI table views. Yeah. Thank you.
I had another question.
Yeah.
It like I guess maybe I'm still stuck on like Swift versus Objective-C, but is there any like cases where you would want to use one over the other?
Is there any cases where I want to use one over the other?
Yeah.
I am not too sure.
Okay.
Like the reason why I used both was because like I got started with Swift,
Uh-huh.
but then my internship they already have their code in Objective-C, so I can only build based on Objective-C.
Okay.
So I had no choice. That's mostly,
I see.
yeah. Yeah, but anyways, that's it for today's presentation. You can stick around if you have any questions. I'll be here for another like 5 minutes. And yeah, thank you for coming. Good
Thank you.
luck with building your project.
This might sound like dumb, but there's a way to actually like run the app that you made onto your device, right?
Yes, so I think you'll need like a USB cable, and then like here um, on the top when you build like something here,
Uh-huh.
which is this thing. When you connect your device to your computer, you can it'll give you, when you click here, it'll give you a selection of your own device, so you can click on that, and then you have to do some random things that like set you up,
Yeah.
set up stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, but it is possible.
Cool. Okay, thank you.
Okay, sounds good.